Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a great listener question to get into today.
Oh, yeah. What's on the docket?
It's about the Tamiya Grasshopper II Super G. What exactly was it? What made it super? And how could you maybe recreate one today?
The Super G.
Hmm.
Right, that takes me back. It's a cool piece of Tamiya history. Definitely sits in that interesting spot between the absolute beginner kits and the more serious racers.
Yeah, and the original Grasshopper, well, that was the entry point for so many people, wasn't it? Simple, tough, loads of fun.
Absolutely. It really opened the door to RC for a generation. The Super G built on that, but added a bit more punch.
Exactly. Now, just to be clear for everyone listening, we're not talking about the later Super Fighter G, which is a different beast, or the Super Hornet.
Good point. And definitely not the Super G drift scene connection some might think of. No, this is specifically the Grasshopper D variant. Kit 49501.
Right. So our mission basically is to nail down what made that kit special and figure out how you could, get that same sort of vibe using the current Grasshopper II re-release.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dig in. Where do we start? The kit number.
Yeah, let's confirm that. Kit now 49501. I've also seen 9218 mentioned, possibly a later or regional thing, but 49501 is the main one.
And notice that number, 49 CAX-X. Not the usual 58 CAX-X kit number Tamiya uses for most 110 scale electrics. That often signals a limited run or a special edition.
Right, like a spot production kit. And this was around, 1989, maybe 1990? Came out after the standard Grasshopper II, which was 58074.
That timing sounds about right. It's definitely an evolution of the standard GH2, not a completely new model like, say, the Super Hornet eventually was with its different shocks and bits.
Okay, so what actually made it super? Let's talk upgrades. The big one was the motor, right?
Oh, absolutely. That was key. They
Yeah.
ditched the standard little 380 size motor.
Which was fine for beginners, but maybe a bit slow.
Exactly. And they put in a proper 540 motor, the Mabuchi RS540 SH, the Silverkin workhorse.
That's a pretty significant jump in power and torque, isn't it?
Huge difference. And Tamiya knew it. They also included, crucially, an 18-tooth pinion gear instead of the standard, I think it was a 10-tooth.
Yeah. Something much smaller. So bigger motor and taller gearing. That means more speed.
Definitely more top speed.
Yeah.
It would have felt much, much quicker than the standard Grasshopper II.
Yeah.
Gave you that taste of, real RC performance.
And if you were building one today, you could use Tamiya's modern 540s, like the torque-tuned or the sport-tuned.
Yeah, either of those would be a great modern equivalent. The torque-tuned, it gives a good balance. The sport-tuned pushes the speed a bit more, closer to that classic Silverkin feel, perhaps.
Okay, motor sorted. What about suspension? This is where it gets a bit weird, I heard.
Yeah, it's interesting. It came with those yellow CVA damper bodies, cylinder valve actuated. They look like oil-filled shocks.
The ones you see on slightly higher-end kits, right?
Exactly. But the instructions and most recollections say they were built as friction dampers, meaning no oil, no internal seal separating chambers, just the piston moving inside the body.
So,
They looked cool, but didn't actually damp like oil shocks.
pretty much, it was likely a cost-saving measure. Gave you the look of upgraded suspension, and maybe they were slightly smoother than the basic pogo stick friction shocks on the standard kit, but not true oil damping.
That's kind of funny. A visual hop-up more than a performance one, almost.
You could say that, though some might argue it was still a slight improvement. But yeah, mostly for looks. It's a defining quirk of the Super G.
Right. And then the wheels and tires, they
Yeah.
definitely stood out.
Oh, yeah. Those day-glow wheels. Fluorescent yellow, sometimes green. Classic late 80s, early 90s vibe.
Totally. And they were the wild one, or Fox-style wheels, right? Larger diameter than the standard Grasshopper wheels.
Correct. Larger diameter, different offset. Made from ABS plastic, which allowed those bright colors, but
A bit more brittle than the usual nylon wheels.
could be, yeah. A bit stiffer, but maybe more prone to cracking on a hard landing compared to the more flexible nylon. But they looked fantastic.
And the tires weren't the standard blocky ones either. No, a proper upgrade there, too. You got rib fronts, sometimes pinspike fronts, depending on the batch, maybe, like bird number 50303 or the
Yep.
later 9805474.
Okay.
And on the rear, proper pinspike tires, like the ones from the Supershot or Boomerang. Much, much better grip than the standard GH2 tires, especially on dirt.
So better motor, taller gearing, fancy looking but not really damping shocks, and much better wheels and tires. Quite a package.
It really was. And one last oddity, the box.
Oh yeah, what about it?
Up often, Tamiya didn't even make a unique box. They just used standard Grasshopper II boxes.
No way.
Yep, and slapped a Super G sticker on it. Then they included a supplementary sheet of instructions detailing the upgrade, parts of the motor, pinion, shocks, wheels.
That's classic Tamiya efficiency, isn't it? A cost-saving move for sure.
Definitely. It helped position the Super G where it needed to be, a clear step up from the base model, offering more excitement, but without the full cost of developing and packaging a completely distinct kit.
So people who bought it, they felt like they were getting something special, a hopped-up version right out of the box.
Exactly. And by all accounts, it was noticeably faster. People remember them being surprisingly quick, maybe even a bit of a handful, to drive with that extra power on the fairly basic chassis.
I bet. All that speed and basic friction shocks, even if they looked like CVAs, must have been lively.
Lively is a good word for it. Challenging, but fun.
Okay, so summing up the Super G essence. 540 motor, 18T pinion, those CVA-bodied friction shocks, and the day-glow wheels with grippy tires.
That's the core of it.
So the big question for our listener, can you recreate this today?
Absolutely. The good news is, Tamiya re-released the standard Grasshopper II a few years back, Kit 58643. That's your perfect starting point.
Okay, so you grab one of those, then you need the hop-ups.
Yep. First, a 540 motor. Like we said, a torque-tuned or sport-tuned would be ideal.
And don't forget the pinion. An 18-tooth, but make sure it's steel, right? The kit one is usually softer aluminum.
Good call. Definitely get a steel 18T pinion, 0.8 module pitch to match Tamiya gears. And while you're at it, a full set of ball bearings. Seriously, with a 540, you'll want bearings.
Makes sense. Size is 1150 and 850, I think, for that chassis.
That sounds right. You need to check the manual. But yeah, replace all the plastic bushings. It makes a big difference to efficiency and handling the extra power.
Then the suspension, what's the play there?
You buy a set of Tamiya CVA Mini 2 shocks for the front and CVA Short 2 shocks for the rear. They look the part.
And you could build them properly with oil for much better handling.
You absolutely could, and it would probably drive better. Or, if you want true Super G authenticity, you could assemble them without the oil and seals, just like the original.
Huh. For the full, bumpy, authentic experience.
Precisely. Your choice, depending on whether you prioritize handling or historical accuracy.
And finally, the wheels and tires, those might be trickier.
Originals in good condition, especially the Dayglow ones, can be hard to find and expensive.
Yeah.
But reproductions of the Wild One Fox wheels are available, often in white.
So you could use white ones, or maybe even dye them if you're adventurous?
Yeah, white is a good option.
Yeah.
Then pair them with the correct style tires, reproduction rib fronts, and pin spike rears are usually easy enough to find.
Cool. So it's totally feasible to build a modern Super G tribute.
Definitely. It's about capturing that specific moment, that blend of almost aspirational performance and very distinct visual style on a budget-friendly chassis.
It really tells you something about what RC builders wanted back then, doesn't it? That step up in speed and the racer look was clearly desirable.
It was a smart move by Tamiya, filling that gap.
So, a final thought for you listening. Think about that combination. The flashy looks, the noticeable power boost, but still on that simple, fundamental Grasshopper II Pheasant platform. What does that tell you about how RC was evolving and what people were looking for in the hobby at that time? Maybe check out some vintage Tamiya forums online, see how others have brought their Super Gs back to life.
Yeah, lots of great builds and knowledge shared in those communities. It's a fun rabbit hole to go down.
Definitely is. Well, thanks for digging into the Super G legend with us.